a fight with my mom. 50 bands in a day. One more, but I'm straight.
I don't know who all follows me on social media or anything like that, but I think as you can see over here, like there's something that used to not be in my setup, which is this mini fridge with my crate of records. And on top of that is a Sleeping Kirby plushie. Well, first of all, this mini fridge with all this stuff on it used to be right here in this corner where the light is coming from. So, over the summer, I got a bigger desk because I've been wanting a new desk for the longest time, right? And I love this desk. I really truly do. I built it myself, ordered it off of Amazon during Amazon Day. But because the desk is so big and this room is as small as it seems on camera. I had to move this mini fridge in my closet because what used to be here was a giant tank for my tortoise Yoshi. Unfortunately, about a week into August, I noticed Yoshi wasn't looking too good. And I took him to the vet, and they told me he wasn't doing too good. He was very dehydrated. And that got me worried. That got me very worried because that was the second time this year my tortoise Yoshi was not doing too good. Back in February, he had I I don't remember the name of it for the life of me. I don't remember what it was called, but he had to have surgery because he had an infection on his penis. This is some real shit. This is real shit. Back in February, my tortoise Yoshi had an infection on his penis, and he had to have surgery pretty much immediately. Otherwise, he was going to die. And let me tell y'all, a surgery for removing a tortoise's penis is not cheap, to say the least. And but I paid for it. I paid for it all myself. I paid for the medication that and the shots I had to give him after his surgery. I paid for all of that myself back in February. And I could easily say it cost over $1,000. That's all I'm going to say. Because I don't want to go specifically into how much I spent. But it was easily over $1,000 I spent on his surgery and the medicine. So, um, back in like a week into August, like I said, I noticed that he wasn't looking too good. Like he wasn't moving a lot. Um, and something before he had the surgery, I noticed was, or after the surgery, his right foot was swollen, like very swollen. Like it was a lot fatter and was kind of losing skin. Like the skin was shedding. Um, so I don't think I think because of what had prolapse, that's what it was called. The infection on his penis was called a prolapse. It's a real thing. Don't look it up. Um, but after the prolapse surgery, I think as a result, his foot just permanently became swollen, and it was just swollen and started losing its skin. So there's that too. But back in a week into August, he wasn't looking too good. I take him to the vet. Turns out he was very dehydrated, and the vet told me on a scale of 1 to 9, which I think this was very weird. He was at a 2. So hearing that, I was like, I was caught off guard because this was the second time this same year that I was told he wasn't going to make it, and they wanted to have emergency surgery again. But this time it was going to be, they were going to put a feeding tube in him, which the way they described it, so here's his shell, right? Here's a shell. It would go into his throat and then wrap around like his shell, like like he was pretty much going to become all machine. So I was very hesitant towards it because I didn't want to do that. First of all, I didn't want him just to be machine anymore. I didn't want him to be all machine because I imagine a feeding tube for this turtle was like he wasn't big at all. He was like the size of my hand. You know what I mean? Like he was the size of my palm. Like he could literally sit in my palm. Like, and also second of all, it was way too fucking expensive. It just really was. Like I couldn't afford, even if I wanted to go with the surgery, I couldn't afford it this time around. And, like my parents were willing to. I'm trying not to cry. I'm trying not to cry. My parents were willing to help me with the payment, but that just wouldn't sit right with me if I had it. I'm already paying my parents back for the semester of college that I dropped out of. You know what I mean? So it wouldn't sit right with me that now I owe them again, like probably what would be $1,000 plus. So after a very long drive home, I just kind of chilled out with him, and I had a very deep heart to heart with him, where I told him that I was gonna put him down because I couldn't let him suffer anymore. Like who's to say he wasn't suffering after? I'm trying not to cry, y'all. Who's to say he wasn't suffering after that surgery back in February? You know. So, and that's really hard to tell. It's already hard enough to tell a person that, like to lose someone, but like to tell a pet, to tell an animal, to tell a creature, like it just hurt me. It really did hurt me telling him that. But I told him that out of how much I loved him. And for the first time ever, after telling him that kind of situation, I I saw him tear up too. I saw him tear up, and this was a pet I knew for almost a decade, and for the first time ever, saw his I saw him I saw his like emotions. You know what I mean? So, and he was crying. He was literally crying because I told him I was gonna put him down, and that broke me more than anything. So, but after that whole thing, after we came home from the vet, and my parents came home, we talked about it, and they had convinced me we're gonna do anything we can to save him. Not convinced me, but kind of persuaded me. You know what I mean? And at the time, I was thinking that there was some other options. They had told me about some kind of like treatment that they could do, the vet can do, to where they can hydrate him. You know what I mean? And so by the end of the day, I was persuaded to give him a chance at life. The next day, as I'm calling the vet, trying to schedule him an appointment, um, I notice I notice he wasn't moving. I pick him up, ice cold, ice cold in my hand, and I was so mad at myself because I told him I was going to put him down. And the one time I know that he was actually listening to me was moments before his death. So that's why there's no longer a giant tank right here, and this mini fridge is here because Yoshi is no longer with me. I didn't mean to get emotional, y'all. I really didn't, but I had to, for I guess lore reason, for lore, behind the scenes lore, I wanted to explain that, and the worst part about all this, because the day I decided to take him to the vet was also the 2-year anniversary of when our family pet Alvin passed away. And Alvin was really close to me. We had her for over a decade, and she was so close to me. You know what I mean? So it was just very, very bad timing, you know? And I'm mentioning all this because, like I said, that's why the mini fridge is here. There's no longer a tank, a giant turtle tank that, you know, if you've been a part of the channel for at least since 2021, maybe, there's always been a giant tank like in the background. At least in this particular setup, there's always been a tank right here that maybe you'll see the edge of. So it was just really bad timing, and it's for me, Alvin and Yoshi pets are a lot harder. I haven't dealt with too many deaths, and I haven't had too many losses in my life, which I'm very thankful for. But losing our family cat and losing my tortoise, which again the cat was very close to me. Um, it's just very. It hurt me more. It hurt me as just as much, if not more, than when my grandma passed away from cancer, like 6 years ago. Because they're just like, even though they can't talk bad, like they understand everything, and like just talking out loud, like everybody talks out loud to themselves, I believe. And like when I would just be happy, upset, pissed off, like, you know, yeah, and then there's that. You see them every day. Um, it's just I've grown close. I don't know why. I've grown as closely to these animals as I have the family I care about and the friends I have in my life. You know what I mean? So let me read all this, Herman. I've seen you've been typing in the chat. I'm not trying to ignore you. It's just I got I did get emotional. I was not expecting that. I was not. I don't even know why I started talking about the mini fridge in the first place. I don't know. Either way, I was going to admit that at one point or another on the channel. Not on here on Twitch, but I was gonna tell the story eventually when I made my return to YouTube. So, you did your best, but honestly, you probably wanted to die after losing to his manhood, and that was the only way to try to save him, and that's not your fault. Yeah, yeah, and I know, and I had a running joke after that whole thing that he'd grow his penis back, but because he's a reptile, he never did. He never grew his dick back. So I had to give up my cat of 4 years this year because it was attacking my son. Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that. Very sorry to hear that. I'm done having pets, man. Losing a pet is the worst. Yeah, yeah. I don't know. I've always had a soft spot for animals. You know, too. I don't know why it is. I truly don't know why. Like some animals terrify me. Like I fucking hate snakes. I really truly do hate snakes with a passion. But I mean, other animals, I'm like, I really I like it. I admire them, to say the least. He listened to you. He went peacefully. I believe that. I remember Alvin. Yeah, there was a couple videos. I remember she was in the background. So, which I mean, as far as Alvin, we didn't get a replacement, but we did. Our family felt empty without, I guess, a cat in our lives. So we did ended up adopting a cat the same year. Which, like I said, we didn't replace her, but we ended up adopting a new cat. And my parents and my sister were like, "You should adopt another tortoise," and I'm just like, I can't do that. I can't do that. Especially now that I'm an adult, I realize there's a lot. Like my parents put a lot of money into that turtle. Like before I started making money about 2 years ago, they put a lot of fucking money into him, paying for him, paying for his tank, the mulch, the food. Like there was a lot of money put into that tortoise. Probably not as much as, or maybe just as much as the surgery costs. But after realizing, like thinking about it, I'm not ready for another pet right now. But also, I don't want to have a pet while I'm still here at my parents' house because I don't want them to have to support it. If I get a pet, I want to support it myself. You know what I mean? So, rest in peace, Yoshi. You see them every day. Are you going to get another? Yeah, I didn't. I didn't see that. Maybe that just answered your question. I eventually would like to get another one. Just my cat was pissing all over my stuffed closed couch futon rugs. See, we've never had that issue with the cats we've had. Like Alvin was very well potty trained, and I know she was a little bit older, but like this Angeline, the newest, the my sister's cat, it really is my sister's. And then it never happened until my son was born. Well, maybe it was just very like territorial. It was very like trying to claim its territory. Even the cat we have, Angeline, who this December, or she probably already is 2 years old. Um, we would have had her for like 2 years. She was so protective of my girlfriend when she was pregnant. Maybe it's the kid then. Maybe it's the kid. Maybe the cat didn't like that it wasn't the baby anymore, the center of attention. Um, but Angeline was very like was potty trained like immediately. Like, and we have our dog Lucy pisses and poops everywhere. She's not potty trained, but I mean, it's pretty noticeable, I guess. She's a little Yorkie, so it's not like big shit or a big pile of piss. You know what I mean? So, ugh. Thank you for coming out to my TED Talk. Let's get back into this album.
I'm trying to be perfect, that shit is exhausting. An infinite force that nitpicking niggas get lost in.